after the election, Rudy had his famous 4 Seasons Total Landscaping presser. The very next press conference in November was on the 19th. And this press conference took place in the RNC building, the Republican National Committee building in DC. And so that morning, I got the message that this presser was happening, because they're often scheduled last minute. And I was like, I'm definitely going to go to that. I really want to go to that. So I went, and it had just started, the whole election conspiracy fraud push had kind of just started to take off. And Rudy hadn't fully revealed just how crazy it was going to get. By crazy, I mean the things that he was saying, the things that Sidney Powell was saying, the things that Jenna Ellis was saying. And so at this point in time, there were many lawsuits being filed everywhere, saying that there was fraud, that this election was fraudulent. So in different states and different places, it was happening all over the place. It was immediately a giant mess, as you can imagine, because it's at the hands of Rudy Giuliani. So I went to this press conference because I was determined to ask him a question. I had it in my mind that it was crucial to push him on this rising conspiracy fraud talk that was happening at the time. So even though it was, this was way before vaccines were out for COVID, and when I got there, I thought, okay, the press conference will probably be outside, it'll be okay. But it wasn't. It was inside in a very tiny, tiny room, which I'll talk about what happened COVID-wise later. But for now, I want you to keep in mind that this was before we knew exactly what was to come with the conspiracy of fraud, including the insane things that Sidney Powell would end up saying, the insane things that Rudy Giuliani would continue saying, and also Jenna Ellis. So this press conference, this was the one where the hair dye was melting down his face. And this was really kind of the start of much more dangerous things to come. So Colin, if you can play the video, the Twitter clip of when I pressed Rudy at this conference, please.
You alleged that Donald Trump has won by a landslide. We've seen that a lot of your lawsuits and in fact lawyers have been kind of dropping like flies. What do you say to those people who call this a Russiagate 2.0 just on the other side? Why didn't this, and also why didn't this happen in 2016?
What fake network do you come from?
I don't come up from a fake network. In fact, I am completely independent, have no one above my head. We're status quo, independent.
First of all, our cases haven't been dismissed. We only have
over 20
plaintiffs who were involved in this.
And also many lawyers.
Don't lie to
So
people.
I'm saying, what do you say to those who call this Russiagate 2.0? I think that we can say that Democrats have a lot to say, that they kind of went way over their head, pointing Russia, everything. What do you say to those who call this you guys doing the same sort of thing?
Answer the question. The answer to the question is, we don't have a lot of lawsuits. We only have 3. Our lawsuits have not been dropped all over the place.
You did mention at the top that lawyers had to go away because they were afraid for publicly.
You're a totally discourteous person. I'm going to finish my answer. So,
I'm actually really nice.
I'm going to finish my answer. The fact is we have very, very few lawsuits. The lawsuits you're talking about have been brought by private individuals and groups. Most of them were dismissed for lack of standing, probably correctly, because they were brought before the election took place. The election is now over. The only lawsuit we have withdrawn is the one where we got the relief that we wanted, and that's the one in Michigan. We also have another lawsuit in Michigan that will accomplish the other objectives of what we want to do in Michigan. So it's silly to have 2 competing lawsuits. The only lawyer that left a case left because he was threatened. His family was threatened. His children were threatened. And so was the other lawyer. Yeah, that's true. We have a little difficulty getting lawyers.
We have a little difficulty getting lawyers. So it was a longer conversation than that. As you can see, he called me a totally discourteous person. And that's because I did interrupt him. And I interrupted him because he was lying. And so I thought it important to immediately point out to the audience, to anyone watching, that he was lying through his teeth like crazy. And I did that not because I'm a completely discourteous person. I did that because I saw the danger of what was happening. I saw how incredibly dangerous it was that Rudy was spreading these lies, that Sidney Powell was spreading these lies, that Jenna Ellis was spreading these lies. And I looked around me several times throughout this press conference in horror as journalists, in quotes, around me from corporate outlets asked questions like, okay, Rudy, where are you gonna file your next lawsuit? And that is the type of questions that these mainstream big named outlets asked. And I'm sitting there screaming in my mind, like, what are you guys doing? Why are you acting like this is a real thing? He's lying. These are lies. And not only that, but these are very dangerous lies. And that was, I don't pat myself on the back very often, but that was right. It was dead on, because we saw what happened on January 6th. And we saw what was to come and what is happening now, still today. I'd spent a lot of time studying QAnon. I'd spent a lot of time studying what had happened to the most sycophantic voters and supporters of Donald Trump. And so I knew how important that press conference was. And I couldn't, kind of hold myself back. And I think that is the role of a journalist. We're there to hold power to account. And I'm disgusted that other journalists did not do the same thing. And I have to say, I'm proud of that day. I'm proud of Status Coup, because that is who we are. This is what we do. We hold power to account. And I said this on Twitter. You guys hold a piece of that. That is because of you. It's because you guys support us. It's because you're members at statuscoup.com/join. It's because you support our GoFundMe at gofundme.com/statuscoup. It's because of you guys. But we bring this up because there's some news. There's some news that, as we could have guessed, everybody knew, including top dogs in the RNC and the Republican National Committee, that this was total BS. The entire time they knew this. So we have new reporting. Colin, if you can bring up the Washington Post article. I will go through that. So this is new reporting as of the 12th of this month regarding last November. The Republican Party's top lawyer called election fraud arguments by Trump's lawyers a joke that could mislead millions. And this is important not only because it's inherently important, but Trump literally today posted that if he were to do a coup, this is a paraphrase, he would do it through an election. So let me continue here. The Republican Party's top lawyer warned in November against continuing to push false claims that the presidential election was stolen, calling efforts by some of the former president's lawyers a joke that could mislead millions of people, according to an email obtained by the Washington Post. Justin Reimer, the Republican National Committee's chief counsel, sought to discourage a Republican Party staffer from posting claims about ballot fraud on RNC accounts, the email shows. as attempts by Donald Trump and his associates to challenge results in a number of states, such as Arizona and Pennsylvania, intensified. What Rudy and Jenna are doing is a joke, and they are getting laughed out of court. Reimer, a longtime Republican lawyer, wrote to Liz Harrington, a former party spokeswoman, on November 28th. So this is 9 days after this press conference that I had attended, referring to Trump attorneys Rudolph W. Giuliani and Jenna Ellis. They are misleading millions of people who have wishful thinking that the president is somehow going to win this thing. The email from Reimer to Harrington, which came about 6 weeks before a pro-Trump mob stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, shows key figures in the party were privately disturbed by the false claims being made about the election by Trump and his supporters, even if they did not say so publicly. So you guys can read this full article. It is an interesting and I think important read. But my point here is that it was important that we here at Status Coup were there that day, because we knew the danger and we didn't shy away from the danger. It's naive to think that all those corporate media journalists didn't see the danger there that day in that room. But they're so beholden to power and what they're supposed to do that they couldn't even call that out.